Should we make a start? Oh, it spotlighted me. Hello, everybody. Hello and welcome. Thank you all for coming. It's very exciting. Obviously, if it wasn't for COVID, we'd be doing this slightly differently, maybe in a theatre. But the advantage here is that we get to have a very international audience. So we're very glad that you've all came along to watch. So this evening for me, but maybe this morning for you, we're going to watch the film. You may or may not have already seen it in 4K gloriousness before, but we're going to play the film first through Zoom. So, you know, obviously afterwards you can still watch it again on Vimeo, etc. And then after that, I'm going to hand over to our host, who is Laurie Rose, who will basically interview the cast and crew. And if anyone has any questions, they can ask them as they go along. If you're feeling a bit shy or don't want to interrupt the flow, just pop them in the chat, and either myself or Stash or Tom will basically bring them into the conversation when it's a suitable time. I'd say to everyone, if you could all...
Oh, are you heading off?
Turn your cameras on by all means, but probably best to mute so we don't get things like that. And we can start by showing the film, Tom.
Okay. Make sure I turn the audio on. Here we go.
Well, there you have it. Hopefully everyone enjoyed that. Brilliant job, everyone. I'm going to now, you don't have to listen to my voice anymore. I'm going to hand you over to Laurie.
Good evening, good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Excellent. Hello, welcome to the world. It's lovely to see everybody. It's been a while. I wanted to thank Mark and Fuji for inviting me to come, FUJINON, to come and play this evening. Single takes or oneers are always thrilling to execute. Maybe they're as close to theatre as cinematography gets. It's a buzz for the cast and the crew alike to get it right, to hit marks and it would go without a hitch. They're fun, but they're tough, and it takes a lot of focus and choreography and rehearsal. So Adrift, I thought, was funny and gorgeous and just a super fun piece made by two fabulous people. Cinematographer Adam Suschitzky BSC and director Sam de Ceccatty. Welcome. Hello.
Hi everyone. So much.
It's lovely to see both of you. One of you at least. There you are. So Adrift is a lovely, funny little slice of life on the London River Thames. Have you both worked together before? That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah. So Adam and I did my last short film together called Energy Within, which was 2 years ago. And I think we just really got on that project, and I know I have, and I think Adam as well has been. We've been kind of on the lookout for little projects that we could do together because it was just so much fun working together first time around.
Fantastic. How did Drift come about? I mean, did you write it as a oneer?
Yeah, so I mean the oneer aspect, I don't know if Adam, feel free to cut it anytime, but the oneer aspect was definitely Adam's idea from the get-go. I think he just really wanted to find a cool little story that could be told in one take that really challenges the lens and is used in a really cool way to tell a story, to tell a story and use this lens in different challenging kind of environments. So yeah, the project was really tight due to availabilities. We only had just under 2 weeks to do everything from the first phone call I got saying, hey, we could do maybe a little project if you were up for it, to end of production. We had 13 days. So it was just really kind of that mad kind of push to get everything together.
So to actually shoot, how long did you did it all on one day? Is that right?
Yeah, correct.
All on one day. And yeah. How many goes at it did you have? Adam, tell me how many, was it just once? You just did it once? You shot 1-to-1 in terms of edit, that was it?
Exactly, you're looking at the first take right there.
No, I mean, yeah, firstly, yeah, thanks to Fuji for what a great, gift of an opportunity to come to me and to say, listen, pick somebody you like working with, create whatever kind of narrative you're interested in, and, we're in. So it's really rare for us cinematographers to kind of get that invitation. So I'm really grateful. And plus, I hadn't seen the lens in advance of the shoot. I mean, I had like 2 hours with it, I think, the day before we shot. But I had absolute sort of confidence because I'd shot a lot with their earlier zooms on the Super 35 format. So it was really exciting to go to Sam and say, look, Sam, we've done a short before, which was, it was scripted, it was very precise, but we created quite a loose way for us to work. We liked improvising, and I, in particular, liked working with Sam with very sort of minimal equipment. And I kind of wanted to take this a step further and say, okay, Sam, we've got one lens. It's going to be one continuous take. I'm not going to use any lights whatsoever. And Sam was totally into it. And what the narrative could be, what the location could be. And Sam came up with this fantastic space, which, I think with modern filmmaking, you want to be able to go out with as smaller package as you can to make yourself quick and light and be able to improvise and react to different changes of environment or different changes of blocking. So I really wanted to sort of push ourselves to the max on that. And well, luckily we had the right team with us, because working inside a boat, a metal boat, when you're actually trying to do everything wirelessly was a whole story in itself. And we got Elhein here and Rob, the fantastic operator and focus puller, and I don't know if Drew, our second, is here, but it was like a complete choreography between actors and operators and focus, and we're zooming. We're using the range of the zoom from I didn't go to 45, but I did get to 40, right down to 19, and just really subtly shifting it as we go. And it was just hugely challenging. Then it started to rain, of course, so that added. But in the end, you sort of take these things, and then they become part of the positive. The fact that it rained, we were able to use the umbrella, and that introduced a really lovely touch for the actors.
The umbrella, of course,
great fun.
The umbrella that looks like a FUJINON test pattern. I'm sure it is. They probably supplied that just to test the color spectrum, which is great. So in terms of it being, I mean, as you say, the idea of the theatrics of a single shot thing is is always thrilling, but it has to be a collaboration, as you say, between everybody, cast and crew. So there he is. There's Rob. Hello, Rob. Welcome. That was an amazing piece of work, but we'll get to that. What I wanted to know is how was it a complete team collaboration, because you've got to choreograph with the cast, you've got to hide everyone, you've got to, and when you've got range issues, like you say, with it being in a metal box, is that did you were receivers, was that, how did it all, I mean, obviously it all came together into this wonderful thing. How did that come about?
Well, Sam, first of all, and I think we had like a few hours the day before to start shaping it with the cast and looking at what the overall action might be. So that by the time Rob, actually, Rob, you were there too on that first day, weren't you? With us watching the layout of it. And the other thing I want to add is that I wanted it to, just to add another challenge to everybody. There weren't enough challenges. I wanted it to be sort of magic hour for dawn, to get that very early light feel for it. So we kind of knew that we would have to start shooting in the afternoon. It wasn't going to be the takes that we'd want to use, but it would give us some rehearsal time. But at the same time, I was really conscious I didn't want to wear Rob out because he's carrying the camera, all those takes. So but it became a complete symbiosis of everybody's contribution by the time we were actually there with the crew. And the amount of shifting that's going on and people hiding in rooms and coming out. I mean, you'd love to have a kind of GoPro on the back of someone's head to see what's going on in and around the camera. And I'm hidden up on the deck under a big sheet in the rain, operating the wheels, and Rob's carrying the camera up these very awkward stairs. So yeah.
Okay, so that takes us to I mean, it obviously it worked, but it takes me to Rob, and let's start with the stairs. So you're backing upstairs, carrying. Tell me what camera that you used, and what, and obviously it was a gimbal. What kit did you use?
Well, that was the Movi Pro, Free Fly Movi Pro with an ARRI LF. So a fairly heavy setup with that lens. But it completely fine, and I had an awesome grip. As Adam said, it's all about teamwork, and the grip pretty much pulled me up. All I had to do was put a foot behind me and stand up. And he knew when he had to lift, and he did lift. So yeah, it was an amazing experience in terms of teamwork and how filmmaking should be all the time. You know, but I was on a headset, Adam was on a headset, and I could tell him when I was about to move, and he could tell me when he wanted me to move or do anything. In this case, I went without a monitor as well and just kind of felt it in a Jedi sense. Wow. So I knew what height I needed to be and where I needed to be when, and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, look, there we go. Thank you, Mark. Mark's sending in some behind the scenes there. Look at that. So obviously you had the constant comms between you and Adam and Sam. Were you talking? Were you in on that as well? So
I'm literally hovering over Adam's shoulder, kind of hunched over it in that tarp. And yeah, I mean, I felt like there was definitely two teams working together, but the camera team was like this kind of 4-man dance, which was really impressive to watch. Between the focus puller, the grip, and the operator and Adam, it was just this super, like, it was really like a dance, like a very high-end, kind of complicated move that I could never begin to understand totally. But so that I think that there was the technical side that needed all their kind of focus to kind of get that working, and that I felt made me very responsible and gave me the space to be really responsible for the story side and performances, which and you know, and we would communicate and exchange ideas, but I really felt like that's how it worked, and I felt like that's how it's supposed to work, and it was just so much fun to be given that opportunity and that space. And I feel like you know, Ting, Max, and everyone, all the cast involved did a great job at remembering, you know, all of the annoying specific things that I guess theater actors are used to, like all the, you know, the very, you know, opening a door way too far than you would because the camera has to glide by, stopping at the exact right position while having a thing over your head because your shadow is hiding the camera's shadow. It was just lots of stuff, and on top of that, just trying to have a good performance for the story. I think so that was kind of my side, trying to spinning all those plates, and I felt it was a really fun and amazing opportunity to do that.
I mean, that collaboration sort of has to work almost as much as you had comms. It has to work kind of wordlessly, doesn't it? Because there's not a lot of time to say, oh, you know, you should be doing this, and sort of introducing an idea. It has to be all quite in the moment and live, and I guess that's part of the thrill. I mean, is it thrilling or just super anxiety making?
It's a combination, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
You know, in the first few takes, it's just complete joy to sort of start to put this whole thing together, and then of course as you get closer to the crucial time of day where you know it's really kind of now or never, it's got to come together. And for me, operating wise, you know, you're not in the room, you're looking at a monitor, so all these multiple twists and turns and going upstairs and down and a very rapid sort of panning moves that were happening going along the gantries. It sort of all became a kind of a memory game for me as to what was coming up next. But Rob just was always putting the camera in the right place, and you know, here we are. We're actually also going to talk about this lens, which just performed so beautifully as well. You know, it's just seamless what it's doing, and I love the fact that it was part of the asset. You know, you want your equipment to be part of your friend, and it's going to help you achieve these complicated things. And at every stage, you know, whatever focal length we were on, it just beautifully rendered what we were doing. And Elhein was like, also, I have to give you kudos, focus pulling here. I don't know where you were in the boat, but you just nailed it every time. And, you know, and the way the shoe comes in, you know, almost minimum focus at one point. It was just
that's a good question.
Exhilarating
where were
everybody
you,
was
Elhein?
together.
You're muted.
You're muted, Elhein. Unmute yourself, Elhein. Can't hear you. Say that again.
Basically, in any
Where were you hiding?
cranny, I could find a gap in. Having to kind of look at the monitor and go, all right, the camera's going to disappear around this corner now. I've got about 2 seconds to pop around before it's going to catch me again. This is took quite a few times to try and figure everything out.
Obviously, with the wide lens, it's not, you know, it's gonna see you if you're not hidden.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Literally.
Yeah,
Great fun though.
production-wise, that was definitely one of the early challenges. Just seeing everyone arrive with all the gear and realizing there's nowhere to put it.
Yeah.
That was definitely a stressful little moment.
Yeah, literally everything was in shot.
So this obviously, but this is we're talking to, of course, the thing that brings us here is FUJINON's fantastic. I've not used them yet, but the full frame Premista zoom lenses, of course, being full frame. These are massive lenses. Is that right?
No,
Not really. No. In the case of the wide zoom that we were using, it's remarkably compact. I mean, for what, you know, it's presenting in terms of its range. I mean, Rob, you had to carry it, but
Yeah.
to look at it, it's very compact. And the fact that you can do a 6-minute take in this kind of environment, I mean, we're really talking about a tiny space. It's kind of remarkable. But Rob, you were the one carrying it, so.
Yeah, it is remarkably compact. I can't remember the weight of it. Someone will tell me, but it's like 3 kilos or something, which, you know, is nothing compared to, you know, there are primes that are nearly getting there. So it's an amazing piece of glass. And as Adam says, you know, we were using pretty much the whole length of the zoom. Focus was changing from close focus to distance focus. It wasn't breathing. It looked beautiful. Skin tones are amazing. It's heaven to work with. And as an operator, to be able to use a zoom of that quality is fabulous, let alone as a DP.
Mm.
Yeah, literally. I mean, that's what's so awesome on a developing shot like this is, you know, it can be fun to just go, okay, we're going to just do it on one lens and we'll choreograph everything to this one lens. And I love that discipline. But on such a long shot as this, with so many elements, it's so gratifying to have that kind of quality at the entire range. You know, there were times when zooms would kind of fall down at the top, you know, the tight end, or not resolve wide shots. You know, that I deliberately, you know, wanted to, you know, there were certain things I deliberately wanted to put in here. One of them was a really wide shot with lots of detail. And how's that going to look? I mean, you know, hopefully you guys can all get to see a 4K version on your biggest screen you have at home, because it's amazing how it renders. And we, you know, Sam, kudos to you for scripting it that way that we hold that shot. So yeah, it's an amazing tool. I mean, it's a game-changing tool.
Mm. I mean, ordinarily you might wear, say, on a crane or even a Steadicam, or on a gimbal. I mean, you might wear a very short range zoom, but use it kind of as a variable prime, just so you don't have to rebalance, I guess. But I guess having something that's compact enough that then you can actually get some lens control on and zoom in shot is a whole other thing. It sounds fantastic. I mean, how much lens control? You obviously had motors on all 3 parts of the lens, but were you, so Rob was carrying and pointing, and you were operating on wheels. What were you doing about stop pulls and the zooms?
I think Drew was Drew doing both of those?
Yeah, Drew had
Elhein?
two ARRI Iris controls, SXU ones. One was on zoom, one was on Iris. And as per your instruction, Drew would also hide in corners and be able to zoom and Iris pull.
Yeah, so I'm kind of talking to everybody, you know, zoom in, zoom out, stop pull here, all on comms, and yeah, Drew was just a magician at all that. Of course, there's one person who I think may be joining us later, which is our colorist, and you know, we should talk about that at some point, because he helped iron out some of the stop pulls, and also did some really lovely things sort of in camera. We sort of took the theme of everything being one take. I know that Sam can talk about the music and the way that that was done, but you know, we also wanted to have the sense that the sun was rising, so that from one end of the piece to the other, you get this sort of passage of time that's been compressed. So in the final image, we get the sun kind of beginning to glow in the back of the city and reflected on the water.
Well,
Yeah.
it's a crescendo, isn't it? I guess up to the punchline. Tell us a bit about that, Sam.
Well, yeah. So I mean, the idea was to really make it feel like we're waking up early morning, and the idea was for the short to end like right at the cusp of the sun rising. And I think, you know, the whole process, because everything had to come together so fast, I think the only way it was going to work is if we were fluid and if we could adapt, and which worked perfectly also, to bring it back to the lens effect, just because it gave us so much flexibility on the day. But I think that was kind of our approach for everything. And from the story, because the story came about because we basically had 13 days, and the longest thing, the most difficult thing on the production was the location, because that could take weeks to book a location. So I knew from day one we just need somewhere that's going to look great wherever we look. So I sent Adam a short list of like 2-3 places, but basically this was the only real viable option. And this is actually where my sister-in-law lives. I don't know if she's on the call. Hey, Nino. She's actually also in the film. She's the one asking about the bread knife. And she would, anyway. So and basically, I spotted this boat a while back because I just think it's so unique and quirky and full of life, and very specific to London. And I'd never seen it, you know, being shown on screen. So that was, for me, that was kind of like the starting point. And then we worked around with Adam. And when we were kind of when we did our first recce, Nino, who was showing us around, mentioned that they occasionally, you know, once every so often, actually find a dead body. Just casually. So we were like, right, well, that was kind of like, right, well, that's the short. That's kind of how we're wrapping it together. And I think that's also where the jazz comes in. It was just everything kind of, we had to scat and make it all work together, you know?
That's the improvisation. I mean, the world that you discover, you know, was just brilliant. Like you say, it had so many aspects to it. The subterranean feel of the inside of the boat, and then emerging out into the rainy fresh air, and then the greenery along the side, and then the sort of geometry of the even the handrails, and then the bikes, and then out into that cityscape. It's just, right. I mean, it is like a test card, but a moving test card. It's very clever. I mean, talking about that stop, Adam, I mean, obviously you went out into that cityscape and you needed a deep stop. So obviously coming from somewhere darker and then gradually closing down as you came out into that thing, that worked a charm.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to keep surprising the audience, and this location just sort of kept giving us all those layers, so that you thought it was one thing, and then you kind of reveal that it's another, and then you get a glimpse that there's that iconic bridge outside, but you have no idea what's coming, which is lovely about a a developing shot, that it keeps surprising you, and you've got to keep delivering another layer to it. But yeah, we went from wide open at the beginning to probably about 5-6 by the end, with coming up out into the open there. But I also wanted to see how was the lens going to perform inside the boat, looking with available light and only practicals out into the exterior, and that was kind of a beautiful moment when I got to finally see it in the grading, how subtle that is. The lens has a natural contrast, but it also has the ability not to blow the exterior in the way that some lenses might do.
Well, obviously, I mean, shooting on the Alexa Mini LF, I mean, obviously the contrast handling and that is something else. Have you shot a lot of large format, Adam? No,
this was actually the first large format shoot I did, and first time on the LF. And yeah, I mean, the sensor is fantastic, and I've been shooting the Super 35 sensor for a long time, and absolutely love that. And kind of so I didn't even have time to test the camera or the lens, so I just had this instinct that, well, this was going to be the lenses that I knew from Super 35. This was going to be the sensor I knew from Super 35, but extended, and it was just, both of them were just beyond what I expected. And what's lovely today, I think what this is touching on is just like how today we're moving towards natural light much more. We're able to go into spaces that we used to have to bring in all the lighting and control the ratios, and now we just have this flexibility, and we can economize as well as work much faster. And I think this was just a great way to kind of demonstrate the liberation that we've now got as filmmakers, and still produce something really, really elegant. And I hope really beautiful.
I think you did. I think it worked a treat. I mean, what's there's a dimensionality about large format that I really love. It's almost sort of like a 3D, especially when you're working relatively, not even relatively short, but the fact that you can do a wide shot and it feel you can sense the planes in it, and it suddenly pops, and HDR obviously kind of can contribute to that as well. But then having good glass with great contrast. I mean, this sounded much like an advert, but it sounds like that having a full frame lenses on a full frame, it gives you that, the glass handles a contrast, doesn't it? It adds to it. It spreads it out.
Totally. And also, as you say, wide shots now, you can still place a subject and have them pop and be able to guide the eye. So, when we go out of the boat and you've got our heroes, as it were, in foreground in this huge vista, your eye is not lost into what to look at, because the large format plays into that, and you can still guide the eye through the focal lengths that we're now working with. So it's a very, very beautiful format, and I'm just sort of thrilled that manufacturers are all coming together to just kind of give us these beautiful tools, make our job much easier.
It's not that easy though, Adam. Let's not make it too easy. It takes a lot of skill and experience.
But kudos to the cast here, Max and Tring, they also, had, as we said earlier, to kind of fall into step with this very precise way of working. Initially, hopefully they were given a lot of freedom and space to improvise with Sam, but as we start to build this shot, it has to become really, really precise, but it didn't faze them at all. But I'd love to hear from Max and Tring, how
Max and Ting, the fantastic cast have joined us. Welcome, Max and Ting. Have you done something as theatrical as this on film before?
Max?
I haven't, no.
Yeah, me neither.
I mean, it is a bit, because that singular performance, obviously, it turns it into that little piece of kind of almost like a live performance. How was that for you? Was it a thrill? Was it terrifying? Was it something to really enjoy?
I guess it's like what everyone's already said. It was a really fun experience. I found it really challenging, but super fun. And yeah, I guess it was that whole dance aspect to it as well. And everything's kind of like a synchronized swim. I don't know.
Yeah, I think synchronized swim actually is a really good way to put it. I think, you know, the way because we had so little time to bring everything together, I wanted as much as possible to have people who were really comfortable with the location. So Max, basically everyone except from you, Ting, everyone actually lives on that pontoon or very close to it. And are performers to a certain degree, whether it's actors or musicians or so everyone was kind of familiar with the world. I kind of pushed them maybe a bit further.
Yeah, it was easy. It was my room.
But so a lot of them were familiar with the place in a way that I feel that we benefited from a lot. And Ting, who's the lead, wasn't familiar. But again, since your character wasn't familiar with the place, I also felt that there was a little bit of like apprehension of where to be. And
Yeah,
I don't know. The way we plotted it out the day before, I thought it was really interesting and really fun to rehearse with you guys. Because the day before we did a full day of just plotting out all the beats and rehearsing and figuring out. Like we had plot points, but we didn't really have scripted dialogue because I wanted to see what worked and what didn't on location. Since we had the location. And yeah, I think I don't know how you guys felt about it, but I thought it was a really fun way to work.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, it made me feel like it was really similar to sort of theatre pieces. Yeah, like we've said, like that we'd like stuff that I've done before at like drama school. It was really similar to that. Like just like we did a slapstick, like 10-minute long silent like movement piece that had to tell a story. And obviously just in a traditional stage setting, that was pretty challenging. But like this was like a whole new thing because you'd move from like one space to another space and it would be kind of like trying to figure out pacing. So you'd have like, first you'd have the kitchen and then you've got like on top of the boat and then you've got the second boat and then you've got all the walkways and each one had this different kind of rhythm. So yeah, it felt really similar to theatre in that like you had the team. That was the main thing.
Different set pieces, like different locations were almost different scenes.
Yeah, and also the fact that you know when the curtain rises on a play, off you go. There's no stopping, and the same goes for a single take. The minute that you take the slate out, it's all got to just be seamless from one end to the other. So I think it's always a great exhilaration when you do these developing shots. It's sink or swim. Everybody suddenly just comes together.
Were there any happy accidents? Were there any things that are sort of that ended up in the take that got chosen that was a bit of an improvise or it wasn't quite planned?
I'm always every time I see the footage and we're out on the boat and Max has put the jacket on Ting and he goes, watch out for those silks. I always think Rob's going to crash into
no
lovely girl. You take us so close past the leg. It's just like I almost kind of wince like this.
Yeah, on purpose. But
I think
what I love about those kind of shots is if you do make a slight mistake or one part isn't quite perfect, you've got to forget it and you've got to move on to the next bit and remember what's coming and what's coming and what's coming. Don't worry about what just happened. Just keep moving so that everyone else can stay in that rhythm, stay in that dance.
I know one happy accident with I'm not sure if I should say too much, but the morning of the shoot, there's the Greenpeace boat that just decided to park meters away from when we were shooting. But on the final shot, on the finale shot, you see like a cool looking green boat, that's actually the Greenpeace boat, which is just a cool, like, yeah, there it is. Yeah, and so it parked there, like,
Great production value.
yeah, production value.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say also the rain. You know, as difficult as rain is to filmmakers, and it slows us down, and it, you know, you have to make everything dry and so on. It's difficult on your feet and hard to move. It adds this beautiful quality to it, and also to the performance as well. I think, you know, having the umbrella just, you know, brings you two together just at the right time. And, you know, Max has been trying his best down below, but it hasn't quite got there yet. And, oh, it's raining. And at last, you know, it's sort of an excuse to bring the characters together in a really great way. So I think that's the happy accident for me that works.
I'm not sure what take it was, but the last take, the umbrella broke, I remember. And the art department weren't happy about it because it was there.
So are you gonna admit how many takes you did? Will you tell us how many?
What was it, Sam? I mean, obviously we had quite a few false starts where you can get 2 or 3 minutes in, and if something doesn't work, that's it. You've got to go back to the beginning.
Because you just waste time otherwise.
So complete takes, I don't feel like we had very many.
Okay, complete takes, I think we had 6. Of which I would be happy to, of which, like, I thought this is possibly the film. There were maybe 2.
That's very interesting. Often it's either the first one or the last one I found.
Yeah,
but that's good.
This take, because the light was fading, and we, you know, we just kept shooting regardless, because we just wanted to make sure we had, you know, enough choices of complete takes. So the last couple were probably way too dark, and I was starting to really ramp up the ISO to try and get that first scene. I mean, I literally didn't have any lighting with me. I kind of went out that day. I'm not going to take anything. So once the daylight had gone, it had gone, but I was pushing the ISO really, really hard by the end of it. So
out of interest, where did you get to? Because the LF can handle quite a lot of
I think we probably got to about 2,500, 3,000 ISO by the end. But I kind of knew that once I didn't have that mixed light, it wasn't the take I wanted anyway.
Yeah.
So I needed that day through the window in the beginning, and where they were sat. Of course, it looked beautiful outside with a lot more lights on, but less and less like kind of first light, as it were. So yeah,
I think it was very
we ended
beautiful.
up using, I was concerned we weren't going to be able to use it at all, because pretty much as soon as they reached that kind of garden path and right up to the end, a plane basically landed on top of us, and none of the sound was usable. So we actually had to steal 90% of the sound from other takes.
Gotcha. I was going to ask about sound, because although this is a discussion about lenses, but it's not very forgiving for sound, shooting 360 and going up and down stairs in a ship. How did they deal with that?
There was a boom operator who kind of gave up after an hour. Oh well, we have Haresh Patel.
There's Haresh. Excellent.
Hey guys.
How was it for you? Tell us all about it, Haresh.
It was the rain was great because it hid a lot of my tears.
Tears in the rain.
Yeah, it was certainly a challenge. From, you know, you're working inside a metal container which absorbs radio frequencies of every description, both sort of camera kit and sound kit, and yeah, like the actual physical placement of where I have to be to record was also part of the dance troupe, going through the place whilst actors are acting, and you're trying to mix these components together while not falling over. So yeah, there was certainly a few challenges of like how to get from above and below whilst receiving sound from below, because I have to be above, because there's a camera crew coming right at me up the stairs. There was definitely it was definitely a real challenge trying to get as much sound information from all these multiple places all at the same time to any sort of fidelity degree. And the boom operator that I had, you know, that was one of the things that we had to sadly lose, because there just literally wasn't enough body space to put someone to get that boom sound, which would have really helped with the pizza base of sound that all the other components were going in. But there were lots of secret placement mics, which you don't really see on set, on screen, which pick up components at particular fixed locations. So it's really a case of blending the migrating components of the actors who are moving through the scene and the fixed components, the sort of pools of sound, like pools of light that you're seeing and then not seeing. So yeah, it was a lot of button pushing and not crying.
Definitely made me appreciate Robert Altman movies a lot more. This experience, like I've rewatched one or two since we shot that, and just the sound quality. Suddenly, I'm like, oh, I get it.
Yeah, having 20 ISO tracks. Yes.
Yeah, Sam and I talked about the player a fair bit before, when we talked about, when Sam came to me with the concept, and we did talk about Robert Altman and sort of how that kind of thing goes. How does that kind of machine work? And we did our not Robert Altman budget version.
Well, it worked. You did very well. Congrats.
Okay.
Well, congrats, everybody. It is a fantastic piece. I wanted to just ask before, I was going to see if there was anybody had any questions, but is that Mark Control at the end with his amazing plastic bag?
No.
Who finds Dave in the river? Is that not Mark Control? It looks like Mark Control.
No, that's my very good friend Connor Kennedy. I don't know if he's on the call, but big up Connor. He's been in, I think, if not all my short films, he's been in most of my short films, just as that kind of guy.
I was hiding either in the tent with Adam, which was extremely uncomfortable, but quite very impressive watching these handles go with such precision and such speed. So either hiding in the tent with Adam or just literally just found a corner somewhere on the kind of mooring area, and just tried to stay out of shot. But every single time you kind of looking around the corner thinking, have they finished? Yeah. Every time.
I also just want to talk a tiny bit about the music, and thanks so much Ali Howell, who was the composer and drummer of this piece, and who just really, I came to him with the complicated brief, which was, I mean, the role of the music was really to tie everything together, but also because it's a one shot, I have zero control over speeding anything up or anything like that. And there were parts where I felt it needed to be re-energized, like technical stuff, like when you're going upstairs, it's just suddenly the story kind of is on pause until they go upstairs. And there was a lot of like stuff like that to try and get the story to flow together, that Ali did such a great job. And the way we worked is we kind of, very similar to how we did the actual short film, we kind of did a very rough sketch map of like what needed to happen and when. And then we just spent a day in a recording studio, just trying things out. And the final take is one take. He's just looking at a screen at his drums and doing the whole thing in the same way we shot the film.
So it's kind of scored in a real singular kind of way to give you that the pace, and which is fantastic. It's almost like silent movie. It's kind of helping with the pacing like a silent movie would.
Exactly. Yeah, that was the goal. And there were very subtle things that you might not pick up on, but little, when they sit, every time they have like a little moment of pause or a look together, there's a big drum, there's a boom 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 boom, which is like the heart, and then there's, when they go out, there's this, I know none of the drum technical terms, but there's more of a thing going on because it's raining. So, I mean, it was just a lot of fun to like play with the different sounds and how it kind of changes the atmosphere of the movie, and kind of ties it all together.
Well, Well, of course, it only speaks to the collaboration of all the departments. You know, as much as I'd like to think it is just pictures, of course, that make a film, it is it is the contribution of the actors and of sound and of music and all of these things coming together in a real beautiful way is what makes these pieces of work what they are. So congrats, it worked. There's a question here, just I don't know if you saw that, Adam. It's about you and your work, really. It's about all the different sorts of work that you do and have done. And it's a question about what do you look for in a lens when you're testing and to achieve a look, and how do you look for different things when you're then shooting on film as opposed to shooting on digital?
Okay, well, that's a potentially very long answer.
Well,
compress that. You know, I've now shot with most lenses other than the large format. I haven't been able to get my teeth into all the new large format lenses just yet. But let's just say up to large format. I took it. It was an interest every single project to explore what you know, the script is saying to me and what the lens might then need to be to echo those themes. So it's a great pleasure every time you prep a new project to explore those ideas visually, and one of the first things you do is to get yourself into a wonderful rental house and open up the archive and bring out every lens you can find. The question about what do I look for in a lens, is that what the actual question was, Laurie?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, you've kind of spoken to that already. I guess it's that it's about the storytelling of that, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And you know, so you try to really link the quality of the lens to the script, and then you're already sort of feeling like you've developed the texture that you're looking for. Then you're going to be looking at what kind of focal lengths you might be interested in, and whether this is going to be a wide and close type of story, or is this going to be a long lens type of story, or are there chapters that will want to intercut between those different styles. Shooting on film versus digital, did that come into the question?
Yes, which is a whole thing, that, but go on. What do you think there's much difference?
Yeah, that's a sort of other. I don't think that one is going to take a different set of requirements when shooting on film or digital. You're still trying to tell stories. You're still trying to find the appropriate tool. Also, you're sort of taking into consideration what kind of production you're heading into and what sort of locations are you going to be in. What is it, a snowy based piece? Is it going to be in a studio where you have everything to control? Is it very low light? Is it going to be deserts, you know, or is it some combination? So you're really kind of setting out a roadmap when you start to test lenses, and whether it's going to be film or digital, those requirements would still remain the same. So that's why you kind of look for a package that's going to service all these needs, the creative and the practical, and that's always, I think, in the DP's mind.
Fantastic. Is there anybody got any more questions that they want to shout out? Mark, can you? Is there any in the chat that I've? Oh, hello. What's that? Well, there's a question just about the depth of field, really, and about the out of focus area and how that works. But I guess if you're shooting available and then you knew you were going from a darker space and then out into a deeper depth of field on the surface, it doesn't quite. But I mean, did you enjoy the wide open aspect to it? And Elaine can maybe, so I don't know if that's how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry, Elaine.
Elhein.
What was it? How was the depth of field wide open on it? I mean, it's always terrifying on large format to be a little bit.
I mean, honestly, on the Mini LF, we were sitting on 4.5K, which is difficult in itself. Depth of field wasn't so much a problem. Like, it was, the one thing I really enjoyed about this lens is the fact that when I go from minimum focus to 15, 20 foot out, it doesn't breathe at all. which unfortunately on quite a few large format lenses, you got a lot of breathing. So when it comes to actually having to adjust focus, actually, you have to actually think, do I actually keep it and have it hold to try and see if I don't have to have the lens breathe, or do I just go for it? And unfortunately, like a lot of shots, you don't have a choice. You have to almost have the whole lens kind of reframe as much as it breathes. Whereas that's what I loved about this lens. It just didn't breathe at all. I could go to any focal length and it would actually just be perfect.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Hein. You touch on that. You know, different cinematographers have very different takes on whether they like a lens to have a character, and you'll put them in a room and have very, very different, you know, tastes on that. I kind of fall in the camp that I like the audience not to be aware of the technique more and more. I'm really into the absorption into the story and allowing the photography to underscore that and not overscore it. It's fantastic to be able to rack really dynamic racks from foreground to background and not have an audience be aware of the technicalities of that. And this kind of lens is just completely seamless in that. And also wide shots on the widest part on a 19, which is super, super wide. You're not feeling, oh my God, the room has now changed shape, or I'm going past verticals and they're all bending. It holds everything so beautifully. But on the other hand, you know, there are modern lenses that can lose all character altogether because they've got rid of all distortion and everything is so perfect, and you feel, well, there's no identity to it. But that's not the case either. There's just sort of a very graceful quality to this lens, which I really enjoyed. And when we had like a couple of hours in a test room the day before, and we put it up on a camera, and I mean, I was gobsmacked at what this lens is capable of at both ends, you know, the 45 or the 19. It's like having a box of lenses, you know, just squeezed into one. So
fantastic.
Yeah,
I mean, it really is. It's a fine line. A lens has to walk a fine line between, but like you say, between being overbearing and keeping a little bit of character. And it sounds like it did just the job. Because you don't want it to suddenly be all about the lens and about the characteristics of the lens, but you don't want it to be sort of surgical and clean. And it sounds it sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly.
As a last question, just for this one's for Sam, I think. What was the idea of the typewriter sounds at the beginning?
Yeah, I saw that. So the idea was, I mean, this is a really kooky, creative boat full of, you know, I mean, they're preparing for a performance later that day, and I really wanted to imagine how, I mean, so this person is waking up from you know, a rowdy night before at least, and it's really early in the morning. They're preparing for this thing, and I was thinking the thing that would wake her up is the sound of them typing the pamphlets for the day, for the production of that day, so the typewriter is what wakes her up. And you find that you then, throughout the choreography, we see the typewriter for at some point in the short, and he kind of grabs a pamphlet and points at it saying, but I'm playing saxophone, Max on sax. So I think for me, the point of the typewriter was to kind of set the mood, set the scene, like this is a slightly strange and it's a creative and wacky and just also, I don't know, I love the texture of the typewriter. I think, I don't know if that counts, but I just love the texture of the sound of the typewriter.
Well, it kind of speaks to the improvisation, doesn't it? It's like the story's being written in front of us as it's happening right there. It's being created.
Exactly.
It's a fantastic piece of work. I really enjoyed it. I think you did a great job in a limited amount of time, and thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for.
Thank you so much, everyone involved, the cast, the crew, Palma specifically also on production, who was amazing at just like pulling everything together, despite being like having like an operation on the day of the shoot. Like the whole shoot happened, you know, impeccably. So thank you so much for your amazing work. The cast for giving it your all, and for having so much fun rehearsing, and obviously the crew and Adam specifically. Thank you so much, Adam, for inviting me onto this project. And finally, thank you, FUJINON and Fujifilm for the whole opportunity. I mean, whoever gets this kind of thing of just getting a phone call going, hey, here's some money to make a short film. It's such an incredible thing. So thank you so much.
Yeah, real kudos to Fuji for extending this opportunity to filmmakers and delivering such beautiful equipment to the film community. So thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you all. Obviously, thank you all for. I think that it's a fantastic film. I'm very proud to be able to say I was involved as well. And thank you to Laurie for hosting. Thank you to everyone for coming this evening. Hope you found this enjoyable. If you check in the chat log, I've put a few links. You definitely have to go and watch The Energy Within, the film that Sam mentioned before. I put a link in there where you can Google it, Energy Within YouTube. It's a fantastic film. And when I was talking to Adam about this originally, and he mentioned Sam and told me about this film, I went off and looked at it and I was like, wow, if this is what we're talking about, we're on to a winner here. So I'm glad the lens held up, but more importantly, we had it was a great experience, and thank you so much for taking the time as well to come this evening and talk about it. So thank you to everyone.
And thanks, Laurie, for being here.
Thank you, Laurie.
Yes, thank you, Laurie.
It was good fun.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Stay safe out there.
All the very best to everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Fantastic session.